You are joining Making a Difference with Melissa Clark, a new show that shares the compelling stories and voices of well-known and everyday people who change the world in big and small ways. Enjoy our guests, call in, or just listen to be inspired. For this show was made with you in mind. Please join us every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with our special guests. And you can listen to our recast at www.melissaclarkshow.com.
The wife's sitting on the deck drinking a glass of wine. Her husband comes out with a newspaper, sits down, starts to read. She says, I love you. I love you so much. I don't think I could make it through a day without you. He puts on a newspaper and says, is that you talking or is that the wine talking? She says, it's me talking to the wine. An old guy says to his friend, I swallowed a sponge. You swallowed a sponge? I swallowed a sponge. How do you feel? Thirsty. Always thirsty. An old couple sitting in the living room. The wife turns to her husband and says, let's go upstairs and have sex. He says, I don't know if I can do both. The receptionist says, doctor, the guy you just treated dropped dead on the way out the door. The doctor says, well, turn him around so he looks like he died on the way in. The wife says, get out! Get the hell out! As her husband's walking out the door, she says, I hope you die a slow, painful death. He says, so now you want me to stay? Hello, I'm Jackie the Joke Man Martling, and this is Making a Difference with my pal Melissa Billy Clark. Tell those jokes to a friend. Tell them to a bunch of friends. Laughter makes a difference. I really hope you enjoy the show. No, go tell them.
Mr. Jackie the Joke Man Martling, how are you, my love?
I don't think that's very professional to say my love.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, let's keep this professional.
But thank you, you gorgeous creature.
You're the best of the best. Mr. John Coger Martling, a.k.a. Jackie the Joke Man Martling.
John Coger Martling Jr. And my father was John Coger Martling, and his grandfather was John Coger Martling. So I'm actually the third one, only it skipped one generation.
Oh, wow. How many kids were there, Jackie, in your family?
Four.
Okay. And Katie is that your only living sibling now?
Yes, my sister Kathy. Katie. And her daughter, Jessica, is my goddaughter and my niece, who her twins are just about to become 1 year old on August 7th.
Oh, my God. What about Brendan? How is he?
He lives with a beautiful, beautiful, brilliant girl in Astoria, and he's doing terrific.
Oh, I'm so happy for everybody. And Kevin? I got to ask about Kevin. Your friend Kevin?
Kevin's married to my sister, and he's doing terrific. They're a great couple, and now, they're grandparents, plus his daughter is having her third kid, so there's a zillion of us.
Geneva, she's having a third kid?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so, Jackie and I have known each other for 15 years here. Jackie was born on Valentine's Day.
That is absolutely true. Me and Florence Henderson and Marty Markowitz, who used to be the whatever it is of Brooklyn, the main guy of Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And and I think Jack Benny. It's a great day. It
is a great day. It's full of love, because that's what you are. You're full of love, and thank you so much for being on this show.
What's it cost me? Nothing.
You're the best. So you are a native New Yorker, Long Island.
Forever.
Head writer for the Howard Stern Show for years?
No. I started with him in 1983, one day a week, and from 1986 to 2001, I was the head writer for 15 years.
How was that like, Jackie?
What's beeping? Is that on your side or my side?
I'm sorry. I turned it off. I'm sorry.
Now, what did you ask me?
So my question is, how was the Stern Show for you? What was your takeaway from that show?
That is a monstrous question that can be answered, obviously, by reading my autobiography. But it was fantastic. I made money. I had a terrific time. I got known. It was very, very hard work and very stressful sleep-wise. But it was an incredible experience. I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
But that's not how you started as a writer.
I went to Michigan State because I had to go to college. You know, I grew up in this vicinity, in this suburb of the North Shore of Long Island. Everybody was college bound. And I had to go to college. I had to pick a college far enough away that I didn't have to see my high school girlfriend on weekends. And I chose mechanical engineering because my father had gone to school in Alabama University for engineering. And I knew I had to take a difficult major, because if I didn't have a challenging major, I would have just drank myself right out of school. So I took a challenging major, which was so difficult, you know, chemistry and atomic physics and mechanics, you know.
Yeah.
And it took me 5 years to graduate, but not because I wasn't smart enough, but because I dropped out in 1969 for a term at the height of hippiness, you know, tune in, turn on, drop out. And I hurt my knee one term and I failed a bunch of subjects. So it took me 5 years to graduate. And as I tell everybody, I used my diploma to roll pot. And I played rock and roll in high school and played rock and roll in college and then played rock and roll the whole 70s. And then my band broke up at the end of the 70s and all I had left was all these jokes I had learned my entire life. So I said, well, let me just try doing these. I always told jokes in the band, and especially in the 70s, it was a two-man act with jokes and songs. But then I went from being a guy who sang songs and told jokes to a guy who told jokes and sang songs, which sounds subtle, but it really wasn't, because eventually, after like a year, the guitar just dropped out of it. And I just told these crazy, crazy jokes and made albums. And I sent the albums everywhere. When I put out an album, I sent it everywhere. When I put out a second album, I sent the 2 albums everywhere. When I had 3 albums out, Nancy had already come to work with me. And we were living together and we sent them to everybody. And Howard Stern was one of the people whose name came across my desk. And you know, some guys in Washington told me about this guy, and I just sent him my 3 albums. And a couple months later, they said, you got to send this guy your albums. He's going to New York, and I'm sure he would love you. So I sent my albums. I had no idea who the guy was. And a couple months later, the phone rang. He said, hey, you want to come in and sit in on my show today? So I went in, and it was 30 Rock in Manhattan, and it was, you know, a little bit more exciting than Governor's Comedy Shop on Long Island. And we did the radio show, and it was me and Howard and Robin and Fred, just like it was the very last day I was there in 2001. At the end of the day, Howard said, man, you're a lot of fun. Why don't you come back next week?
Wow.
So I came back next week for 3 years. And then he went to mornings and said, and I had started passing him notes and helping him be funny. And he said, I need you to come in 2 days a week. We're going to mornings. And within a month or two, I was on 5 days a week because he was a lot funnier the days I was there. So, and it just, nobody knew. It was one foot in front of the other. Nobody knew anything. And it just, we stepped on a banana peel and went to Pluto. It was just, you know, it was me and Howard and Fred and Robin, and it just, you know, it was chemistry. You know, I mean, Howard thinks was all Howard, and it wasn't. It was 99% Howard. But without, you know, it's like a great steak. Without a little pinch of salt, it ain't the same. You know,
That's right.
It was, but it was great. It was a great, great, great experience. So it was the time of a lifetime. You know, I wound up off the show. It had nothing to do with not enjoying myself. I mean, I enjoyed myself as much the last day I was there as the first day I went and sat in with them. And the first day I sat in with them was so much fun, you know. You know, it's 4 people being funny, you know,
Yeah.
4 smart people being funny.
That's right.
You know.
It's so funny because before I met you, I was living with Fred's nephew, Justin. It's just so funny how our worlds are so small. I believe Fred's last name is Nukas, and he changed it to Norris.
Did you ever tell me that?
I think I did. And I lived with Justin for a couple of years, maybe like a year or 2 in Rhode Island, but we were just roommates. But his uncle was Fred.
Wow. That's Fred's brother's son.
I suppose so, because I guess Nukas is his last name, but he changed it to Norris.
Right. For showbiz.
For showbiz. Just like Jackie the Joke Man. I remember when you had your show after you left the Howard Stern show. And your work ethic is amazing. And I remember you used to sit there and every white noise would be gone from your show. So when you finalized the show, it was perfect. So tell us, what is your encouragement for people starting out in the industry to...
No matter what industry, no matter what you do, there is no substitute for hard work. Everybody needs luck. Everybody needs luck. And nobody gets anywhere without some degree of luck. But you got to be ready, you know. When the car goes by, you got to jump in. You got to, you know, there's no substitute for hard work, and you never lose anything by working hard. I worked 25 hours a day for as long as, you know, I worked so hard in the 70s. I never got anywhere, but I worked so hard writing songs, recording, sending my songs out to people. They just weren't any good, but I worked. I always tell people that how successful your art is, or even how good your art is, has absolutely nothing to do with the amount of passion and energy and love you put into it. I'm telling you, I agonized over my songs. I loved them, painstakingly worked hard on them. Just like somebody sat down and spent a year trying to paint a beautiful painting. Even if the painting is horrible, that doesn't mean their heart wasn't in it, you know, 150%, you know. And, you know, and I gave it my all, and then realized if I ever want to eat, I better do something different. Yeah. And of course, it was kind of a stupid leap to jump from music to comedy, which is, you know, even crazier odds and even more ridiculous. But I certainly wasn't, you know, I don't know if I chose comedy or comedy chose me, but I knew damn well I wasn't going to get a job. I mean, there was no comedy on Long Island. We had to create the comedies. We had to create places to do it in order to do it, you know. So I was part of the whole starting everything out on Long Island, you know. So it's really fun, you know. Yeah. People who read my book are just amazed because they think you just dropped in out of nowhere, you know. Like one day you got up and told a joke, and all of a sudden there you were, and there's a little bit more to it, you know.
Right. So now in February 2001, you made history by becoming the first comedian to perform at B.B. King's. Is that correct? B.B. King's.
I don't know if I knew that. Is that true?
It's on your Wikipedia. You know, sometime that can be.
You know, anybody can write anything on anybody's Wikipedia. I personally didn't enter that.
Yeah.
But it is possible. I mean, B.B. King's maybe hadn't been there that long when I did it. I'm trying to think who would have booked me there, but
I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it. But I wanted to ask you because maybe you knew.
Who knows? You know. But that's interesting. I mean, I worked. You know, I did like the High Times Stoney's party. I helped host, and I did a few different shows at B.B. King's along the way, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it was crazy. I enjoyed it, but I don't remember who would have booked me there. But it was fun. It was a great venue. You know, I went to a lot of shows there. You know.
Yeah. So, my question to you is, because I know that your jokes are a little racy. You talk about different races, and we know comedy's supposed to be funny. But what do you think, with all the sensitivity this year, if you were to go out next year, do you think you can keep these jokes that you say?
Everything has just mellowed out over the years. Nowhere's near as much ethnic stuff. I mean, in my early albums, it was all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it was never really offensive, like mean or, but everybody has different degrees of mean. There's women that would listen to my act now and go, you're a horrible person because you make fun of marriage, or make fun of girls, or make fun of guys. Everybody has different levels of sensitivity, but I'm a full believer in intent. If your intent is to make people laugh and not be harmful, but my act nowadays has one or two, Jewish, Black, Polish. It's much less. It's mostly marriage and poop, and it's silly stuff, but and it's dirty, but people need to laugh, and that cannot go away. If that goes away, we're doomed, because if it goes away, it's just going to come back. Like these jokes I do, in one form or another, have been around since Adam and Eve. People are never going to stop making fun of each other, and never going to stop laughing about the frustrations of being a couple, whether you're gay or straight, or and the differences in people, and the difficulties of any kind of relationship, or work, or the boss. I mean, these any place there's conflict, there's always going to be. I hate talking about comedy and talking about humor, because it's like watching paint dry. But the bottom line is, it ain't going away. It just ain't. And stupid jokes are fun, but a dirty joke will always get a louder laugh. I learned that so early on. If I'm in a bar and I tell somebody a joke, and then I tell them a filthy joke, they're going to laugh 5 times harder. And when I tell jokes, it's funny. It's purely selfish, but it's not selfish, because I want to make somebody laugh. But the payoff to me is the laugh. I want laughs. That's what my act has always done. I get respect from some people, but not other people. All I've done for 40 years is make people laugh as hard as they can laugh for an hour. I don't make anybody think. I don't give anybody any lessons in life. I don't teach anybody. All you do is you come in, you laugh your ass off for an hour, and you leave. But God damn it, we need that. People need that. I've had so many people say, I've never laughed that hard for an hour ever. And they don't say thank you. I know more about life now, or wow, you cured my marriage. Everybody has their job. The doctor's going to take your appendix out. I don't want to take your appendix out. I want to make you laugh your ass off. So I don't think. You get old. I watch comics, and for years and years, I haven't been able to really understand anything. I just don't. I just do what I do, and anybody who likes it, fine. Anybody who doesn't, fine. I don't know where comedy and TV and blah, 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 this whole, somebody has to get hurt.
Yeah.
For something to be funny, that's why it's called a punchline. Not hurt, but somebody has to get punched, or there's no joke. Even if it's something as silly as somebody doing something stupid, you're pointing out that they're stupid. It's all harmless. Yeah. And I tell people, if you don't want to laugh, don't call me up. Don't come see me. Don't come get me. If you don't need a doctor, why go to the doctor? You know what I mean? If you don't have a sore foot, don't go to the foot doctor. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
You do about 150 jokes, is that right? In like one show?
Yeah, in an hour, yeah. It's somewhere. People think it's like 1,000, but it isn't. It's like, 150, 180, something like that. It depends. Sometimes I do 45 minutes. Sometimes I do an hour and 15 minutes. And, it depends on how hard people are laughing, how much I want to, But it's in the vicinity of 150,
Have you ever crossed the line that you even said to yourself, like, whoa, I shouldn't have said that in a joke?
Nah.
No.
Nah. Yeah. Have I made mistakes? And not really. You mean, like, there's times when you make the wrong call.
Right.
I do cameo.com.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put in a plug for myself. I do cameo.com/Jackie Martling, and people hire me, and all celebrities charge different prices. I charge $50 because it's a nice price. I sit in front of a microphone. I sit in front of the iPhone for a minute or 2 minutes and tell jokes. It'll make fun, and people can do it for a wedding, anniversary. But sometimes they just don't give me the information.
Yeah.
And to give you an example, yesterday, I got booked, and this woman said, my friend just had COVID for 90 days. He beat it. He had a really bad heart attack a couple of years ago, and he's my favorite cousin, and I love him. I want you to say hello to him. He could use a good laugh. She didn't give me any parameters. Now, I'm Jackie the Joke Man Martling, and I figure if somebody uses me, if they see me, it's because they know who I am and they know what I do. I have to assume that they want me to tell dirty jokes, because if I just go, hello, how you doing? Happy anniversary, they're going to be, what was that?
Right.
We got Jackie the Joke Man. So I made a dirty but funny, welcome, glad you're all right, and blah, blah, blah. And I usually put my email in. And anybody that's watching this, anybody who emails me, I have somebody who answers all my emails, me. And my
Jokeland@AOL.com.
Jokeland@AOL.com. And I put it in, and she texted me, and emailed me. She said, Jackie, your jokes were great, but I don't know if my cousin, I don't know how he's going to be able to handle the F word. Could you maybe redo it? And like, I wasn't insulted in any way. I didn't even write her back. I just redid the cameo and made the jokes just a little bit lighter. Oh, she said because he'd like to post it. I'm sure he's going to want to post it on his Facebook and send it to his friends, and who knows where they stand. But the point was, I didn't make a mistake. I just wasn't given the information. And immediately she gave me I got like 55-star reviews on Cameo. But she immediately said, thank you. I think she was surprised that I didn't say, oh, give me $4 more,
Right.
But that's not a mistake. But, but a lot of times people say, please get as filthy as you can. I'm like, fine. But sometimes people say, our mother and father, it's their 50th anniversary, and they're 2 kids, and we want you to say happy anniversary. I'm like, are they Stern fans? Are their parents Stern fans? Are they Jackie fans? They expect me to tell crazy marriage jokes and be filthy, or just say, hey, mom, hey, pop,
So you want detailed information?
Well, not detailed. I have to go with the default is I'm going to be outrageous. And if they say, take it a little easy, I take it a little easy. I mean, I have no desire to be dirty or to be naughty. It's just that's what gets the biggest laughs, and that's what I'm good at. So, and most people say, that's the funniest thing I ever saw. It's so perfect for me, Mel, because it's like, it's a minute or two. And I can rattle off 5-7 jokes in a minute. Boom, 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 and people love it, and they replay it for all their friends. And, so it's a really fun thing. But, and sometimes you're in a group of people and maybe tell a joke that maybe you shouldn't have told, or, but I just don't care. Like H. Allen Smith, a million years ago, this very, very funny American humorist said they should take all the people that don't enjoy a dirty joke and put them in a canyon so the rest of us can stand on the rim of the canyon and piss on them. It's that simple. If you can't enjoy a dirty joke, I got no use for you.
It's so great. I can't. What do you think the future of comedy is going forward after this year?
No, who knows? People. All I know is people have to laugh. That's all. That's all. And people got to lighten up. If the whole world takes over, nobody gets hurt. you know, when I started reading about this, places in college campuses where you can go stand in the corner where nobody's going to say anything mean to you. Like, you know, get a glove and get in the goddamn ball game, you moron. You know, it's like these people that raise their kids in these totally sterile environments. You know, when you're a kid, you got to go out there and you got to eat dirt and you got to bang your head on the table and you got to get insulted and you got to get bullied a little. You know, you got to get some hard bark on you. You know, maybe that's old school thinking. I don't know. But like, you know, too much shelter is not good, you know.
Kids are very sensitive nowadays, too much. You know, I grew up with a father where it's like, you know, spoke when spoken to, kid, you know, like that's the way.
Yeah, you know, there's all kinds of degrees. You know, there are people who are, you know, too rough with their kids or not rough enough, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, you know, it's got to be within the sweet spot. That's all, you know.
It's got to be.
And I'm not a parent. I might have been the world's greatest parent, or I might have been a horrible bastard, or I might have left my wife and ran away. You know, anytime people are talking about child rearing, I feel like I got nothing to say because I never walked in those shoes. So how dare I say, you know, like they're screaming, oh, the kids got to go back to school. The kids got to go back to school. It looks like the people that are saying the kids got to go back to school are the people without kids. Other people, like, I'm not sending my kid in to get, you know, but once again, you know, they can't stay home because they're going to wind up crazy. You know, we're just in such a terrible situation, you know, but how do you laugh at it? I don't know. You know, I can't make sex jokes. I don't get erections anymore. So all I can laugh about is poop. You know, if I go to make a sex joke, poop comes out.
You know, my father, you would have been like, do your best. You know, you would have been like my father was. Do your best, kid, you know, but do great, you know, because you always tell me that. Do great. So I think you would have been a really good father.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, I'm good with my niece and my goddaughter and my nephew. We have fun.
Yeah.
You know, I am officially Jampa.
That's right. That's right. So how many kids do they, Jessica has twins?
Yeah.
Brendan has twins. None.
Yeah, they just got engaged, but they're not married yet. But the twins is a handful. They were here yesterday at the beach, and they just, you know, they're so great, you know, just so great. Jane and James.
Oh, how sweet. How old are they?
11 months. They're going to be 1 year old on August 7th, which is so exciting, you know.
They're so nice, Jessica and Brendan. I remember them, and Katie. Good family you have.
That's like everything is the same here, you know. Like my girlfriend Barbara is, you know, from another planet. You know, she's just so sweet and so good, and she's going through. You know, she's a booker. You know, she books cruise ships and bands and weddings, and you know. And her business has completely come to a halt. But everybody's, you know, it's one thing if everybody around you, it's like being in a foxhole. You can't complain about people shooting at you because they're shooting at everybody, you know, so you just make do. And we're getting by. I'm doing a lot of these cameo.coms, and it's not much money, but it piles up quick enough to, you know, we go get some food and, you know, and go out with a tin cup and get some quarters and we're all set, you know.
So I want to just go into, with Nancy, if we can go back to when you guys were married and you tried for children, since we're on the kids topic. Can you tell us what that experience was like?
I'll just tell you it was very, very difficult because we tried in vitro fertilization. And we did it 6 times, and it was early in the 90s, so there was no such thing as the internet and rooms where you could go in with if there had been other couples that we could have talked to and commiserated with, because the experience we were going through was surreal. And it was really, really tough. And the drugs that the girls have to be injected with makes them nuts.
Yeah.
And there was nobody to say, yeah, it's crazy for us too. And it's crazy for, you know, it didn't exist. Plus we had to keep the whole thing hidden because Howard had one of those stances where if you can't have kids, you shouldn't have kids. You shouldn't do it with chemistry. So I had to keep it. We had to keep it a secret from the entire world. So I was in disguises, and we were sneaking around doing it. And you know, when you get that phone call and they say, "We're sorry," you know, it's times 6. You know, it really kind of, you know, I don't blame anything, but that kind of really pulled us apart. It was. Thank God we had money, because it's very expensive. I don't know where we found. I mean, I was working 25 hours a day. How we managed to pull it off, but it was very, very hard. You know, and the hardest thing about it is having a kid is like falling off a horse. I mean, every day people are having kids and throwing them in trash cans. You know, like it's like, you know, people, you know, are spitting out kids like crazy. And if you don't have a problem having a child, you have no concept. It's like you have no concept of what it's like to not eat, because you've always had food. You can't, you know, you've been hungry, and you say, you know, oh yeah, I've been hungry. I know what you know. You don't know from hunger, and you don't know from and when you don't have kids, like, people have no idea what that's like. And you know, we'd be at a party, and people say, hey, you know, you two make a lot of money. What are you doing? You know, you got all that money. When are you going to pop out some kids? When you see a little Jackie and Nancy, when you pop out some kids?
Yeah.
And she would get so upset, which she had every right to get so upset. But like, I couldn't get mad at the people, because they had no concept of how sensitive it was, how heartbreaking it was, you know. It's like, that's like walk a mile in my shoes. I walked in those shoes, you know.
Right.
But now, you know, and the odds were so bad. I think that nowadays it's a lot easier and a lot smarter, and we, you know, and it hurt our relationship enough that we never adopted kids. So, you know, but it was a tough bump. If it wasn't you, I usually don't talk about this to anybody.
I know.
You know,
I know.
but it was rough. But you know, you play with the cards you're dealt. That's simple, you know.
What would you recommend to a couple who's going through that right now?
I have no advice. The only advice I have is you gotta, however patient you think you can be, you gotta be 5 times more patient. Yeah. That's all.
That's good advice.
For the woman, you know, especially for the woman, but you know, because it's so hard. It's so hard on the girl, and the guy just has to, you know,
go along with it.
I don't, but you know, I'm sure that was 30 years ago. God knows how much it's changed. I'm sure they've, you know, gotten all the drugs and everything down to a much better science, but it's really, really tough, you know.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jackie.
Sure.
So 2001, you said to yourself after the Stern show, you're done waiting for 5 o'clock to drink, and you quit. 2001?
Yeah, you know, when I got off the show, I mean, for years, you know, it's in 1971, I tried to quit drinking. And after 3 days, you know, I could never stop more than 3. And after 3 days, I wrote a song called 3 Days Rest, on the premise that if I wrote a song, I'd be proud of myself and I'd reward myself and go get drunk. So I wrote the song and went and got drunk. So it had been in the back of my mind I didn't drink all that much, but I did. It's hard to explain. Like, I was a social drinker that made sure he was in social situations.
Right.
You know, people would say, oh, you quit and you didn't go to AA and you didn't have, you know, the shakes. You know, you didn't have a problem. And I'd say, yeah, well, you tell Nancy that, you know.
Right.
And I wasn't angry, drunk, or mean, but, you know, it definitely took its toll. And I drank and drank and drank. And it's funny because I used to say, you know, we used to drink beer and Jack Daniels in the 70s. And then in the 80s, I drank Budweiser. And then in the 90s, I drank light beer. So in my mind, I was tapering off, which is just so funny. But I know someday, and then I quit in the early 90s. I went on Nutrisystem because I had to do the Rascals Comedy Hour. I wanted to lose weight. When you do Nutrisystem, you can't drink. And I didn't drink for a year. And I was like, well, I guess I could do this. And then I had a beer, you know, and then next thing you know, anybody will tell you, you're right back on the horse going.
Right.
And I knew in the back of my mind that I really, at some point, had to stop. But there was no way that I was working so hard in the 90s, putting out albums and recording shows. And we had the TV shows, and I was doing my stand-up and doing the radio show every day, which was enough for anybody. And then going on weekends to Las Vegas or Chicago because the money was so good. Mm. There was no way that I was going to work all week. And I couldn't drink that much during the week because I had to be up at 4:30. But there's no way that come Friday, I wasn't going to go get loaded. That just, you know, and they say one of the things about alcoholism is like check boxes. And one of the things, if you reward yourself with a drink on Friday, well, of course you do, you asshole, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny was I was in high school. There was an article in Reader's Digest and said, answer these 20 questions. And if you say, I think it said, if you say yes to 3 of them, or if you say yes to any of them, you have an alcohol problem. And I remember I went through those questions a couple of times trying to find one that didn't apply to me. I mean, that long ago. So I knew that in the back of my mind that I really should quit. And then when I left the show,
yeah,
Nancy and I had kind of been split for a long time. We had separated, like we lived together, but you know, we're friends. We're still best friends. We double date.
Yeah.
And she lives 2 doors away.
Love
but
it.
We had grown apart, and I had bought this house. So here I am in the house by myself, and I quit the show or left the show, however you look at it. So I got no job, and I'm living in the house by myself. I have no relationship and nothing but time.
Yeah.
And I would drink, and I would wake up like in horror, because you know my life had fallen apart all by choice, all by my own choice. But it was so odd, and you know I had been going full tilt for 30 years, and you never had time to stop and think, and what that might be a reason for drinking is so you never stop and think. And I realized that I had way too much free time. You know, the idleness is the devil's workshop. And I realized that I can't sit around waiting for the sun to go down so I could start drinking, you know, and I wake up with these hangovers that it wasn't even so much of a hangover as it'd be depression. And I said, that's it. And I just stopped. And that was, you know, that was almost 20 years ago, you know, and I just, it was classic. You know, me and Nancy were at a christening, and the waitress was coming around with the pitcher of beer and the coffee pot.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the most highfalutin event, and everybody had a coffee cup, you know, and the beer goblet, and the lady came around, and I reached over and took my coffee cup and turned it over. Mm-hmm. And Nancy's jaw hit the table. She couldn't believe what she saw. And I just looked at her and said, I'm done. And they poured me the coffee, and that was it. That was it. I went a week later. Me and Nancy went out to dinner with John and Susanna in Manhattan to some nice Indian restaurant. And John's like, what are you drinking? I said, I quit. He said, no, man, you got to drink. And he was so up my ass. I said, all right. So I got a drink.
Oh,
and
wow.
We wound up, the 4 of us, in a handsome carriage going around Central Park. And me and John had a 6-pack in a paper bag in a handsome carriage, which was just so despicable. And in the 20 years, he is the only friend, so-called friend of mine that ever said, come on, man, have a drink. Come on, take a drink. You need a drink. Have a, you know, nobody else ever, you know, gave me any slack about, you know, and then after that, just that one night, that one slip back, that was, you know, I don't even remember how drunk or not drunk I got, but that was the only time. And really funny, one New Year's Eve, I got a job. I was working in the Midwest in like Wisconsin or something. It was New Year's Eve, and it was so funny because I didn't drink anymore, and everybody's partying. We're probably smoking pot, and I think a girl had really nice cleavage and her bare between her boobs, and somebody being funny poured champagne down her cleavage, and without even thinking, I just licked between her, you know, just being outrageous, being me, not even thinking about the fact it was alcoholic.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, you know, and I wasn't embarrassed about what I did. I mean, the girl was great. She was, you know, she was half naked. It was just fun. But that was like, wow, that's of all the ways to take a drink by accident. Now, one time, I used to drink Diet Coke, and I was out with Ian and David Friedman, and I was meeting them at a bar, and they ordered me a Diet Coke because they knew I was on my way. And I came in the crowded bar, and they said, "Oh, there's your drink." I said, "Thanks, man." And David had a rum and Coke, and I took the Diet Coke, but I took David's rum and Coke and down like half of it, and I was like, wrong.
Oh my God.
It was like, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
But
wow.
You know, I mean, I don't know how much. I don't know if I took too sweet, whatever it was, but it was the wrong, you know.
Oh,
so funny.
God.
I'm talking about it. I could taste it.
Can you?
Oh, it's a very, very weird, you know. I remember we tried to quit drinking in Albuquerque, me and Bass, when we lived up in the mountains of Albuquerque. And we were in a trailer, and we had a party after the band job one night, and we had a bunch of guys and girls, and we used to drink. We were both trying to not drink. We used to drink Foolers, which were tonic water and lime, which you convince yourself is a gin and tonic.
Correct.
But somebody had a gin and tonic, and I'm sitting there playing guitar on the floor of the trailer, and I reached over and grabbed somebody's. I thought I'd grab my Fooler, and took a big sip, and I said to Bates, every cell in my body just jumped up and said, "We're back! We're back!"
Oh my God!
Like, I mean, it was such a distinct thing. It was like, you know, it was like, I don't know if you're not old enough, but Popeye used to eat a can of spinach.
I remember that. Yeah.
And you know, boom! You know, it's so crazy.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, it's been almost 20 years, and it's great. And you know, when you first stop,
yeah,
it's funny because I said, you know what? I got to go out. Anybody can quit booze if they just sit home.
Yeah.
I said, I got to go out. And I thought, you know, if you go into a bar, people are going to be like, what are you doing here? You're not drinking. You don't belong here. You're not one of us. That's in your mind. You know?
Correct. Yeah.
And you go into a bar and you get a glass of seltzer and you put a stirrer in it. Nobody gives a crap whether or not you're drinking. And besides that, nobody's drinking as much as you used to drink. Like, I'd be standing there with somebody and they'd be holding the same drink for an hour. And I'd be like, well, are you going to drink that? Or what are you doing? You know, like, people just don't care. You know, it's, you think it's an issue, and it really is no issue. And you think, oh, I'm so much funnier when I'm drunk. People, no, you're not funny when you're drunk. You think you're funnier when you're drunk.
Correct.
You think you're more entertaining when you drink, you know. People say you're so smart and so entertaining, you don't even know it, you know, and then you get a little drunk. You know, once in a while, we'd be somewhere, I'd be out with Nancy or some friends, and there'd be somebody drunk, you know, like obviously drunk. And Nancy would go, that was you. No, that was never me. And she'd think, yeah, that was you. And I was like, wow, you know, because you
don't remember.
Totally unaware, you know, but never nasty, never mean, never, you know, started fights or arguments, you know. I mean, me and Nancy would fight, but we do
Yeah.
that, we do that in our sleep.
Right. It's so funny. It's funny that you mentioned Stuttery John. When I met him at the when John Travolta and Kelly Preston came to Brooklyn. Remember I sent you that picture? I said, I met Stuttering John. I was so excited. And we just lost Kelly yesterday. Kelly Preston passed away.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. I never met her. I might have met Travolta along the way, but I don't think so,
Yeah. No, they hit it very good, That's the way to go. So tell us about your relationship with the vets. I know that you invited me. You go and you volunteer at the shows where the veterans come and they sit and they listen to you to jokes.
My friend Sid Mandelbaum started this charity years ago called Rock and Wrap It Up. And he himself is a vet. But when I met him, it was so funny because I've been trying for years to prove that I'm related to Theodore Roosevelt. And I know we are, but we've never been able to get DNA.
Yeah.
So I did Jerry Cooney's golf outing. And then I was at the Friars Club one time, and this guy, Sid, comes up to me and says, I have a charity. Would you do my golf event? And I said, sure. He seemed like a nice guy. And he's a Jew, completely full of tattoos, which is unheard of. And so when the golf event came up, it was the same day as Cooney's. Mm-hmm. And Jerry Cooney's golf events were incredible because like Whitey Ford and Yogi Berra, all these great baseball, boxing, football, basketball. I mean, I'm not a big fan of all those things, but I know that the local New York guys, especially from when you were younger, and you get all kinds of great celebrities. But I said, Jerry, I already promised somebody, and I can't really renege on the guy.
Yeah.
So this guy, both of his parents almost starved to death in the Holocaust. Mm. And then they came to United States and they met and got married, two Holocaust survivors. Mm-hmm. So he's made it one of his things that nobody's ever going to go hungry. And he asked me to do this charity, Rock and Wrap It Up, which sounded so futile. He would, like, if the Rolling Stones do a concert, backstage, there is a ridiculous buffet of food and shrimp and roast beef and lamb and salad and, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, everybody backstage is coked up and drunk and crazy, and all that food would get tossed. And Sid decided he was going to start a thing where after a rock concert, they would get the food that wasn't used, that was untouched, and give it to the homeless. Which, and he started at Jones Beach Theater. And it sounded a little narrowcast. At this point, 20 or 25 years later, they get the food that's left over from hockey games, Major League Baseball games. It's written in the movie contracts that any leftover food, if it's in the contract with the city, that you have to give the food to them for the homeless. And it'd be amazed, like before a ball game, there is so much food. It's all pre-cooked. There's tons and tons and tons of food because they estimate, and there's always so much left over, and he gets all the stuff. I mean, it's amazing what he's done. And so I go to his golf event, and we're playing golf, and I say, this is great, this charity you're doing. I said, there's no way to, you can't make a living do this. What's your, he says, well, I'm a scientist. And he, of all the ridiculous karma, he's a DNA expert. So I've still got the swabs and the stuff in my garage waiting to meet a Roosevelt that's willing to share their DNA with me. Okay. And this guy, Sid, is just so great. But he's also a vet, so he does things like we did something at Seaway Country Club like last year with a bunch of vets, and they all, they all gave me subjects for jokes, and I just blew them away, and I wound up from that doing a whole bunch of different stuff with the guys, because vets are, they're the ideal audience for me. So we have so much fun, you know, and being a vet himself, Sid is, you know, very thing. And, you know, and then the Nassau County cops, the retired cops, I go and hang out with them here and there, you know.
They love you, the cops. They love you.
You know, you wouldn't believe the fight I went through to get to Iraq. The whole world, you know, all the comics and, you know, are going to Iraq to entertain the troops. And I couldn't get on a tour because I told dirty jokes. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? These guys, they're getting their heads blown off and their arms blown off and they're watching their buddies blow up. And you don't think they should be able to hear a dick joke that people told in 5th grade in the schoolyard? You're crazy.
Yeah.
But I actually went through D.B. Sweeney, who told, you saw Forrest Gump, right?
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan, yes.
Gary
Sinise.
Gary Sinise is a huge guy for the vets.
Yes.
And he contacted this woman, and I went down to Nashville, and she saw me, and she said, they'll love you. And her company's Stars for Stripes. Mm-hmm. And so I went over to Iraq with Bo Bice, who had come in second in American Idol or one of those shows. Mm-hmm. Carrie, what's his name, beat him? Carrie
Underwood. Carrie Underwood.
Yeah, right. And so I did 40 minutes, and his band did 40 minutes, and a lot of the soldiers, oh, Camp Liberty, Camp Freedom. Oh, that was the best show we ever saw. And it was so heartwarming. Oh my God. You know, we do a 2-hour show for like 600 people. But after the show, we'd sit there and sign autographs, and every single person at the show would be in line. We'd be there for 3 hours signing, taking pictures. I was so thrilled, but I you know, I fought harder to get to Iraq than I would have fought if I was there, you know, but it was such a great payoff and so much fun, you know, and they so appreciate it, you know, but that's the kind of thing you can share, you know, like the jokes just work. That's something it's a really shareable entity, you know, and then they have the jokes to retell each other and tell the people at home, and, you know, and they're just old jokes. They're not my jokes. They're jokes, you know, they're like, it's like singing "This Land Is Your Land," you know, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Is Sid the gentleman that I met that day when you did that performance? I have a picture with him when I brought Brendan. Remember, I brought my friend Brendan with me, and we came, I think it was last year or the year prior to that. It was all veterans. It was on Long Island.
Oh, that would have definitely been Sid.
That was Sid, okay. I have a picture
Mustache,
of him.
heavy set guy.
Yeah, I'll put a picture up of him and you. I took a couple of pictures of him. Very nice man.
He's really good, really good.
And
his son is literally a rocket scientist.
God bless.
You know, they had like 3 kids and then took like a 20-year break and then had 2 more or something. Him and Diane are amazing. Just great people.
I'm glad that you brought up that. Well, we're talking about the veterans, but I just want to bring something up with PTSD. You know, we're having these problems. Well, before 4th of July, where they're doing the not the fireworks, but the Roman candles. And, you know, I know that my dog was startled. I was startled. You know, I'm in the heart of Brooklyn, so I could only imagine how the PTSD people are handling that, because it's like bombs going off, you know, so that was like a big problem, and I felt so bad for them.
Every time we're here, right in Bayville, like there's so many fireworks on the beach, and I always turn to people and say, I can't imagine, you know, being in a foxhole, and those noises are from bombs that were headed for you. You know, like it's staggering. It's staggering, you know.
Yeah, I hope at one point they just get rid of all of it. I mean, I know it's beautiful to look at, but when you're using it as weapons, I don't know if you saw like on the internet, they were using them as weapons here and shooting them off at people. It's
I never heard of that. You know, for 3,000 years, the Chinese had fireworks and entertained each other with gunpowder, and the Europeans took the gunpowder and and created guns with I don't know what it was called, fire powder or whatever. The Chinese did not use it as weaponry. It was the Europeans that said, hey, we could shoot bullets with this, Yeah, well, what can you do?
That's going on. I don't know if you could hear there's there's police going back and forth all day, because last night we had a drive-by shooting. 5 people got injured here in New York, not far from me. So it's just very
well, you be careful. You should wear a bulletproof bra. You don't have to worry about your lips. They'll take care of themselves.
Crazy. All right, let's talk about your relationship with the Roosevelts, because I know in your book here, as soon as you open it, you talk about how you could perhaps be related to them. Can you? Okay,
I will tell you the story.
Thank you.
It's hard to tell in a nutshell.
Okay.
Theodore Roosevelt was born in 1858, in New York City. Mm-hmm. His father's name was Theodore Roosevelt, but his father was referred to as Theo, The Roosevelts came over from Holland, and they made so much money. Cornelius Roosevelt made gazillions of dollars. Manhattan almost burnt down, and they bought up all the real estate, because even burnt down, it's still the world's greatest natural port, Yeah. So they always played down how rich Theodore was, how rich the Roosevelt family were, but they were ridiculously wealthy. So his father was a terrific philanthropist. He started the American Museum of Natural History and the Boy Scouts. And if you look up Theo Roosevelt, it's unbelievable, because he was a playboy. In the old days, the very, very wealthy, the definition of a playboy, and this is an actual name, a playboy was somebody where they hadn't had to work for 2 generations. For 2 generations, they didn't need to get a job, because that's how much money they had. So his father was an incredible philanthropist, but he was also a philanderer, and he did whatever he wanted. And it's really weird, because his father bought his way out of the Civil War, which, if he paid us $350 and didn't have to go to war, which so many wealthy people did back then, that just was normal. But that's why Roosevelt was like, Mr. Go to war, send his kids to war, because he was embarrassed by that whole thing. And he always talked about, if you read anything on Theodore Roosevelt, the first thing he says is, the greatest man I ever met was my father. He was the greatest, and his father passed away when Theodore was in Harvard. Mm. But while Theodore was being born, his father was in Maine. It was a very common thing. In the old days, the guys weren't there watching the wife have the baby. In later years, they were in the room passing out cigars, but he's on a hunting trip in Maine while Theodore is being born, Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So he goes to Maine, he's on a hunting trip. 20, I don't know exactly how many, 20 or 30, however many years later, this guy from Maine shows up in Oyster Bay, Long Island, and is working for Theodore Roosevelt at Sagamore Hill. Mm-hmm. Nobody can explain how the guy, his name was Franklin Hall, and on his birth certificate is William Hall and whatever his mother's name was. But connecting the dots backwards, Theodore Roosevelt's father went to Maine on a hunting trip, had sex with some woman, knocked her up, and if you lay it out like that, and she said, your real father is so-and-so. Mm-hmm. And so this guy, the point being is, if you just show up on Long Island, you don't knock on the Roosevelt's door and say, I'd like to come work for you. That's, right. You don't go to the Vanderbilt store, So he ran Sagamore Hill, and Franklin Hall had 8 kids. And his oldest kid was, if you accept the story, mm-hmm. Franklin Hall is Theodore Roosevelt's illegitimate half-brother. Sure. They share a father. Theo is Teddy's father and Franklin Hall's father. Franklin Hall had 8 kids, the oldest one being my grandmother, and the youngest one being Leonard W. Hall, who was an immense politician on Long Island. He was Eisenhower's campaign manager in 1952 and 1956. And in 1948, Len Hall and Ethel Roosevelt Derby, one of Theodore's children, led the fight to make Sagamore Hill into a national monument. When Franklin Hall's wife was having her 8th kid, Theodore Roosevelt said, so Franklin Hall, so Franklin's having another child, what should he name him? And Ethel Roosevelt was 8 years old. And she said, well, Father, why don't you name him for your favorite general from the war, Leonard Wood?
Yeah.
So they named my great uncle Len Leonard Wood Hall. He was named for Theodore Roosevelt's favorite general. And it's really funny because when my cousin Lenny was born, his name is Leonard Woodhall Martling, Woodhall being one word. And kids are merciless in high school. Yeah. So all the guys on the football team called him Woodhall. I mean, I was Koger and he was Woodhall. But it's so obvious that it was, when you connect the dots. Now, the reason this whole thing surfaced is because of Clinton and Monica, which is just hysterical. The local paper was a Democratic paper, and the Locust Valley Leader, and my uncle Len was not only Eisenhower's campaign manager, but he was national chairman of the Republican Party.
Right.
And in the 50s, they used to call Nassau County the 49th state because it was solid Republican, unbelievable. My father had a connected job. They all had connected jobs. So there's an editorial in the back of the Locust Valley Leader. Well, Bill Clinton got caught with Monica, but sex has always been a part of politics. Nelson Rockefeller died, in the middle of having sex with his nanny, and so and had and FDR had his mistresses and blah blah blah, and then they said, and there was always the rumor that our own Leonard W. Hall was the illegitimate son of Theodore Roosevelt.
Right. Now,
my cousin Dottie was very close to my great uncle Len, and great uncle Len took care of her when he was in Congress in Washington. She'd go down to Washington and he'd take her out to dinner. There's his favorite niece. So she loved him, and she couldn't believe that they were disparaging him like that. So she wrote this letter to the Locust Valley Leader, like, how dare you disparage, my uncle Len, blah, blah. And she decided before she sent the letter, she would make sure there was nothing to this. So she went to my Aunt Eleanor, my father's sister. She was the only one left. The other brothers and sisters had passed away. She was like, in her 90s. And she said, Aunt Eleanor, they put in the paper that the rumor that Uncle Len was the illegitimate son of Theodore Roosevelt. Is there anything to that? And my aunt, who never took a drink, couldn't have been a straighter arrow in the world, looked at Dottie and she said, well, and Dottie couldn't believe it. She said, the family rumor and the local rumor wasn't that Leonard was the illegitimate son of Theodore Roosevelt. The rumor was that Leonard's father, Franklin, was the illegitimate son of Teddy's father, Theo. And that was the first we got wind of it. And that, my cousin John is the local town historian who doesn't consider it a rumor. To him, it is absolutely fact. And I just found a bunch of letters back and forth from Teddy to Franklin Hall. Unbelievable. McKinley got killed and Teddy went to Washington. He became president and he wrote to Sagamore Hill and said, Franklin, he referred to him as Hall. He called him by his last name, Hall. I got a job for you here in Washington. I need you to come down here right away. And just like me, he wrote, said, well, Mr. President, I would like to come down, but it's not really convenient. I can come down in about a month. I mean, that's the President of the United States trying to put a new cabinet together, and he needs this guy not to be in the cabinet, but to assist him.
Yeah.
That's something a brother would say. Like, I'll get there when I can. You know, I mean, there's just but all I need is a swab of DNA from almost any Roosevelt. I already did my test, and it's been sitting in there. I had a girl ready to do it, and at the last minute, her mother passed away, and she didn't want to cause trouble in the family.
Oh, wow.
And the point is, I'm sure everybody in my father's family, or everybody knew this rumor and knew it was true, but there was nobody. By the time we found this out, there's nobody left to ask. So the only way, but a DNA will not be gray area. It'll be absolute yes or absolute no, you know. And I just cannot get. I came close again. You know, I found out there's this girl that worked in a local bar over in Seacliff who's exactly the same place in the descendancy line as me. And she was all excited, and then she said, "No, my mother doesn't want me to do it. She says the DNA won't be, you know, is too far reaching, and plus she doesn't think it'd be good for the, you know, her mother didn't want to do it because she didn't think the DNA would work, but she also didn't want to find out, you know. I know my great uncle Len knew. I know that Ethel Roosevelt Derby, you know. The problem is that Theodore Roosevelt's biggest thing in the world is what a hero his father was. And if it turned out that, you know, his father was a philanderer, which they all knew, you know, you know, there was so many skeletons in the closet. Theodore Roosevelt had to walk, you know, Eleanor Roosevelt was his cousin. And she married FDR, who was a Roosevelt. FDR married his sixth cousin. Eleanor Roosevelt married Franklin Roosevelt. Yeah. And Teddy had to walk Eleanor down the aisle because her father, Teddy's brother, was in Paris drunk. You know, I mean, there's a lot of craziness, but, you know, I eventually we are going to find out one day, you know. I wish the president's DNA was in a file somewhere, or, you know.
Don't they have that ancestry.com that you
can you know, you do all that, but, you know, everybody covers their tracks when it comes to, you know.
So my question to you is, because history is so important, how do you feel about all these monuments being taken down?
Well, I'll tell you, it's very eye-opening.
Statues.
Because at first I thought it wasn't a good idea, but I had so many of those monuments were built long after the Civil War, and they were built just to show white supremacy, just to show, you know, they're still in charge, and, you know, and they should come down. You know, some people say, oh man, maybe leave them up there with an explanation. Like somebody like Robert E. Lee was a great general, and, you know, Lincoln asked him to lead the Union Army, and Robert E. Lee said, no, you know, I got to be true to Virginia. And but so many of them were you know, despicable. You know, it's just you know, maybe take them down, put them in a museum. I don't think. Oh shoot, I'm bleeding again.
Okay, all right. So
the
wait, go ahead. Clean up yourself.
Hold on.
Okay.
I cut myself for you. I do so many of these things, and I usually don't shave, but I shave for you. And I tell myself, I cut myself thinking, because I'm not paying attention, and I swipe my nose. But it's funny, when you cut yourself on your face, it just goes, and
I know.
stopped it.
You gotta put pressure on it.
I know.
Only you would do it.
It's so funny. So
wait, hold on. Clean yourself up. I don't want you.
It's fine. It'll be an hour before it stops. But But you know that it really is the whole thing is despicable. You know, because those guys they still are
Wait
fighting
a
Civil
minute.
War.
Wait, I can't.
What?
Wait, I want to wait because I'm gonna have to edit this out. Wait, hold on. You're making me laugh. Wait, hold on.
No, don't edit anything ever.
I have to.
Don't ever edit anything. That's
That's what I learned from you.
That's
is to
the
edit.
crime. That's the crime of people that don't know what they're doing.
I'm snorting. Wait, hold on. I can't.
That's real. You want people to enjoy your show, you keep it real. That's all. But yeah, monuments should come down. It should stop fighting the Civil War. I just hope we don't have one. That's all. Which scares the hell out of me. Whoa!
I can't stop laughing. You okay? Jackie, you're so funny. You don't realize it.
Of course I'm funny. It's my job.
Jackie, wait. I can't stop laughing.
You're making fun of me. That's what you're doing.
So funny. You don't want me to edit this out? I was snorting.
No, it's fun, but keep talking. Don't stop talking.
All right, but I was just snorting, though. All right, whatever. Okay, whatever you say.
You know, we're not talking politics. Yeah, you know, they
Okay, so
a lot of that stuff is hurtful. It really is hurtful. You know, and now I'm sure so many people thought that there was statues erected, the great generals that just fought the war right there. And they're not. They were built in the 1890s, 1900, 1910.
Yeah.
You know, as a you know.
Did you ever think in your lifetime that you'd go through a pandemic like this, and everything happening so close together?
I read after this happened. I read there's a great book called The Great Influenza 1917, which is beyond terrifying, and it was written in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, in the epilogue, he warns that it could happen again.
Yeah.
And he describes exactly what we're going through in 2005. Everybody knew that there was a chance this was going to happen, but it's just like nuclear war. There was always a chance that was going to happen, but what do? Stop living? Obama and them, they had things in place, and Trump disassembled the whole pandemic response team and everything.
Yeah.
But how much can be prevented? But if you read The Great Influenza 1917, the scariest thing is it was the same course as this, that it came and it was a huge wave, and people referred to it as the 3-day virus, and people get so sick that they thought they were going to die. And then after 3 days, they were fine. And they thought it wasn't a big deal. And it came back in the fall viciously.
Yeah.
We would not have won the war if it wasn't for the pandemic, because the German soldiers were so ill, and in the battlefield, they were so weak, and it killed so many people. If you read the book, it'll chill you. I mean, in Philadelphia, the bodies were piled up in the street. It's absolutely crazy. It's called The Great Influenza 1917. But I tell people, I'm so scared that this thing is just getting started.
Yeah.
You know, it might mutate and get weaker, but it also could mutate and get 5 times stronger. There's no way to know.
Yeah.
You know, whether the antibodies are going to remain or not remain. You know, nobody knows nothing. You know, it's pretty frightening. You know, and I got to be careful. I'm 72. You know,
I know.
So, you know, I got a target on my forehead. You know.
So that my doctor said that it will come back in the fall. So we
Well, but I'm not. It's one thing to come back in the fall. I'm talking about coming back and mutating into some. You know,
I understand.
In the fall of 1917. It got to the point where people were waking up absolutely healthy, and then that night dropping dead at a bus stop.
Wow.
Literally.
Yeah.
That morning, I mean, you got to read it. It's a scary book, but it's enough to make you think about it. And that was one, you know, a soldier in Fort Worth, Kansas was, he got it from something from a pig on the farm or whatever, and then came to spring training, to basic training, and then he went to war, and boom, it's like crazy. It's just absolutely
scary.
crazy.
It's so scary. Did you lose anybody, Jack?
Yeah. I lost a couple of people, but I found them. They were hiding in the garage. No, I haven't lost anybody yet, thank God. My niece's husband had it and had it bad, and he had to stay in the other room. He couldn't see the twins for a couple of weeks. It was, we did lose one. I did lose one guy that wasn't that close, but he was a guy who was. I have a very bad left knee, and he would, shoot stuff into my knee so I could walk better. He's a really nice guy that took care of the Islanders, and and a lot of the. He was a guy who took care of joints, and he flaunted. He wasn't afraid, and he got it, and he was a big guy, and he died, and it was very, very sad. But and he wasn't that close. But I hate saying it out loud because that fickle finger of fate is traveling around.
Yeah.
You got to be very, very careful.
It's very scary. I've been covering it on the show since it started, and I had a respiratory therapist on. I've had psychologists on talking about, how to cope with it mentally. It's been crazy, but
I have one of those little guns, and I take girls' temperatures before I French kiss them.
Crazy guy. So in your book here, I want to talk about all your celebrities, and I know that you were friends with Les Paul, and we lost him. Was it 2 years ago, Jackie? He passed away?
No, long time ago, like 2000. Well, I met him when he was 85. I met him in 2000, and maybe 5 years ago he died. I'm not sure. I really don't know.
I could have sworn that it was all right. So. I
think 2009. Yeah, I met him when he was on his 85th birthday, and he died just before he was 94. So I think he died in 2009.
And you're friends with Willie Nelson.
Yeah. Me and especially now, me and Willie, jokes going back and forth on email like crazy.
I love it. He's fun. And here with Roddy Dangerfield.
That was great fun.
And Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, well, he started out, right when we all did, but he, it's so funny. I was like 30 or 31, and he was only like 15 or 16, and he was so cocky, but he, I didn't think he was all that funny back then, but he was he had such self-confidence, and he was so cocky, and he said, I'm going to be bigger than the Beatles. And then he was bigger than the Beatles.
Wow.
But he was great. He wasn't a dick. He just was confident, and we all had fun,
What about Sam Kinison? How is he? He
was great. I had a lot of fun with it. I met him when he first came out to New York and worked a gig with him out in the middle of nowhere. And it was a very, very interesting night. And then years later, he walked into the Stern Show, and he's like, "What are you doing here, man?"
Oh, wow.
Same thing as you, it's a long story. Like the
Keith Richards and Les Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, that was great. That was the night I met Les Paul, and the night I met Keith Richards. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, some life here.
That chat, all that stuff is in the book.
Yes.
Great stuff.
I love it so much. I just wanted to show some photos. Here's your friend Ian. But yeah, get this book. This is amazing. It says a lot about Jackie and his life. And you sent me over a video, which I like. I'm going to put that on my website that you just released. It's like a celebration of your career.
Well, it was a song that I wrote so long ago, and it was an autobiographical song about my birthday party, and we had gone out to Albuquerque, New Mexico. We were up in the mountains playing in a bar between Santa Fe and Albuquerque, up in the mountains up there at a place called Golden, New Mexico, at a place called the Golden Inn, and we were homesick. So I started writing a song about my birthday party, and it became such a popular song. And we came back to New York and we used to play the song at the bars where we played. And then this girl broke my heart, and the owner of the bar, the owner of actually 2 bars where we worked, I think he thought I was going to kill myself. And he didn't want to lose 2 sold out shows a week. So we got the bright idea, hey, you know, I'm going to pay for you guys to record the Pot song, and we'll do it at Kevin's studio. That's where I met Kevin Kelly.
That's so nice.
He played in a band at the same bar, and we recorded the Pot song, and everybody went wild to it. And we made, you know, that was our hit single, with my love song on the other side to the girl that broke my heart. And people just went nuts to it. And then my record company guy, Carl Olio, just the other day, took a whole bunch of photos that he had of me and put them behind the Pot song. And then I said, listen, you might as well let me tell the story of the song. So he put that on there too. And it's kind of fun. You know, it's a little pretentious, but it's also a little fun. You know, it moves quick, you know.
I love it. It was a really good, I liked it very much. And here's all you also do kids CDs. You still have these?
Yeah, yeah. I got, you know, of course they're in cardboard sleeves now.
And what's my favorite song of yours is Let the Rain Fall Down. I think you did that with Nancy.
And that's the opening of when the Pot song, before it starts playing, it has all the Pot song and the story of me writing it.
Yeah.
That's the music that plays before the song starts.
That's my favorite song of yours.
Oh, then you'll love it. I love it.
I love it so much. It's such a great...
I wrote that song, Let the Rain Fall Down, so long ago.
I love it. It's such a great feel-good song, and comfortable, and just, you know, you have really good songs.
God, I can still remember the night I wrote it, you know. That's just the instrumental.
What's that song about?
I was just alone in my attic where I lived in my mother's house. And there was a girl I liked, but it was just, I was at a nice point in my life. I had no money, I had no nothing. We weren't going anywhere, I had no future, no past. And, but I was content. And it's, you know, and it's gentle, you know.
Jackie, what do you want your legend to be?
I don't have a legend.
What do you want to be known for?
The thing is, there was a guy lying there in his casket at his wake, and he had 3 friends that were kneeling in front of him. Mm-hmm. And the first guy says, you know, when I go, I want people to say, he was a family man. He was a good family man. He took care of his family. Mm-hmm. And the second guy says, well, when I'm lying there, I want people to say, he was generous and he was fun. It was good to be around. And the third guy says, when I'm lying there, I want somebody to say, I think I saw him move.
I can't. You are the best of the best. You're all of those. I can't. You're too much. You want to say any more jokes? You have any more?
So why did the old man fall in the well?
I don't know.
He didn't see that well.
Jackie, tell the joke with the chicken wings, remember? Do you remember the chicken wing?
That wasn't the story with me and you?
You don't remember that?
Yeah, it wasn't a joke. It's just so funny. It was so funny. That was the contrast in the women that I date. You know, I was with Suzanne, who was raised in Cold Spring Harbor, and Rich, and when we went out to dinner, we went to a film premiere of this French director who had taken a French comedy and adapted it for America, and it was a Sony Pictures Classics movie, and those were my friends that are the presidents of Sony Pictures Classic. And after the premiere, we went to this fancy French restaurant, but it had a paper tablecloth. And I ordered like a half a chicken, and I was eating the chicken. And when I eat chicken, I clean the bones unbelievably. That's how I eat chicken. I just suck all the chicken off. But it was a paper tablecloth. So I made a pile of bones to the left of my plate on the tablecloth, which now in retrospect, of course I'm a moron, but I'm having fun. And I make this whole stack of bones and nobody says anything. And then we're at dinner at my parents' house, at my house with my family. And Suzanne says, yeah, I couldn't believe your brother. We went for this great meal and he's like eating chicken. It must have come up in conversation. And he made a pile of bones on the tablecloth next to the plate. I'm like, but it was a paper cloth, like paper where you bring your son and he writes in crayon on it, And so my sister's like, oh my God, we always like to think that when he goes out, he knows what he's doing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Jesus, lighten up, everybody. And a week or two later, I'm out on a date with you. And Suzanne wasn't my girlfriend. I was dating a few different people. And I took you to the Coach and I ordered chicken. Maybe it was a month later, I don't know, but I ordered chicken. And I'm eating chicken and I'm cleaning the bones. And I said, and I told you the story about cleaning the bones and putting them on the paper tablecloth and how everybody's bent out of shape. And you looked at me without even a blink of being funny and said, what were you supposed to do with them? Stick them up your ass? And my heart stopped. I was like, do I date the gamut of broads or not? Oh my God. Cold Spring Harbor versus Brooklyn. What are you supposed to do with them? Stick them up your ass? That's such a fun. I've told that story 1,000 times.
I don't hold anything back.
No, I guess you didn't. I guess you didn't. I never thought I'd get those bones out of my ass.
You are seriously the best of the best. And I want to thank you for my career, because I know without you, I wouldn't be here right now. I can tell you that much. You hooked me up with somebody. I'm not going to say the name, but you hooked me up with somebody, and I appreciate you for that. It was a lot of slavery that I had to do on my own, but I'm sorry, I got myself to where I am today because of you. So thank you. I want to thank you.
So you owe me. The only payment I accept is oral sex.
I have to edit this out. You telling me no?
No, you don't edit anything.
Okay, all right. I'll listen to you.
Don't edit anything. Go to cameo.com/Jackie Martling and have me wish your friend a happy divorce, Merry Christmas, happy birthday, happy Hanukkah, filthy jokes, send some dirty jokes to the kid that's graduating, send some horrible, filthy jokes to your grandmother to make her laugh her ass off. That's all. I tweet jokes every day at Jackie Martling at 420. And if you want to say hello or chat, jokeland@AOL.com. And Melody Bell is my dear friend, and be good to her and watch her show. Stay tuned.
Thank you. Get his book. It's amazing. And we thank you so much for everything.
Oh, you can get the book if you go to JackieTheJokeman.com. That's the URL, and the Amazon page pops up immediately. JackieTheJokeman.com. I don't know if you know this, but I got a huge bump in sales from Howard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He didn't mean to. He never mentioned my book or said anything about my book to his fans. And then like a year or two ago, he put out a book. And if you go to buy a book on Amazon, any book you buy, underneath it says, people who bought this book are also interested in these books. And they had my book and Artie Lang's book.
Yes.
And so here's his fans are like, I didn't know Jackie had a book out. And they already got their credit card in there. They already got the mouse in their hands with one click. They got my book too. So all of a sudden I had this big bump, which is so fun, you know.
I love it. I love you.
All right, kiddo.
You're the best.
All right. I hope this was successful for you.
Yes, it was wonderful.
All right, baby.
I love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to Bruno's Restaurant, located at 158-22 Cross Bay Boulevard, Queens, New York, for sponsoring the show. Bruno's is family operated with the finest of Italian cuisine, daily specials, and brick oven pizza. They are currently serving outside dining.